Since both FIA Formula 2 and FIA Formula 3 haven't had any major changes for 2020, I figured rather than making a full video for each series, I would instead do a roundup of everything you need to know about any rule changes for their upcoming seasons. If you're new to both series, then I recommend watching my introduction videos first, as they are basically up to date for the 2020 season, besides the small details I'll be covering today. For everybody else, let's continue. Starting with Formula 2, there are no major changes to the regulations or the race weekend itself, apart from the retiring of the number 19 after Antoine Hubert's unfortunate accident last year. If you didn't know, unlike Formula 1, Formula 2 and Formula 3 do not let drivers pick their own number. Instead, teams are allocated numbers based on the finishing position in the team's championship from the previous year. For example, the team who finished first in 2019, Dams, will use the numbers 1 and 2, while the rest of the 11 teams will be allocated accordingly. The number 19 isn't the only number retired from the selection, however, as the number 13, long thought to bring bad luck, has not been in use in the series history. So, by the end of the 22-car grid, the final team, newcomers High-Tech GP, will run with the numbers 24 and 25, with 18 being skipped over along with the number 19 for consistency's sake. Outside of that small sporting anomaly, there is also a major physical change introduced for 2020. Up until this year, Formula 2 has run 13-inch wheels on its cars, but from 2020 they will switch to 18-inch wheels, something which has been in the works for Formula 1 for quite a while now. Thus, Formula 2 will effectively be a testing ground for how the new wheels work in anticipation for Formula 1's debut of the change next year. And so far from testing, the teams and drivers' comments of the change have been rather positive, and the overall aesthetic of the cars is, at least in my eyes, unchanged and something you'd get used to, much like the halo after a couple of races. And that's Formula 2 dealt with, so let's move to Formula 3. Now I want to clarify that I am talking about FIA Formula 3 that is part of the Formula 1 support paddock, and not the regional Formula 3 equivalent seen elsewhere around the world. In terms of changes, consider it opposite to Formula 2. Rather than physical or technical changes, the one big change comes to the points distribution and grid makeup for the second race. Previously, the top 10 finishers were awarded points in race 1, with the top 8 finishers then reversed for the second race's grid. So for example, if a driver finished first in race 1, then they would start 8th in race 2, second would start 7th, and so on. The 9th and 10th place finishers would still take home points, but would then go on to start from 9th and 10th respectively for the next race. Speaking of race 2, only the top 8 finishing drivers were awarded points, which in a 30-car field means a driver could potentially pass 21 cars and still fail to score points. In an attempt to alleviate this sticking point, from 2020, the top 10 drivers from race 1 will be reversed and the top 10 finishers in race 2 will receive points instead. Race 2 will still award the same amount of points to its top finishers, with first taking home 15, second 12, third 10, fourth 8, and fifth 6, but for 6th and onwards the amount has been tweaked. 6 will now take home 5 as opposed to 4, 7th 4 a boost from 2, 8th 3 a boost from 1, and 9th and 10 will be awarded 2 and 1 points respectively. Regardless of these changes, the same principle remains. The driver who finished 11th in race 1 will start race 2 from 11th as well. So this change is simply to boost the points for the reverse grid race. Likewise, points for pole position and fastest lap are unchanged as well. And that's all you need to know about any changes happening to Formula 2 and Formula 3 for this year's season. Hopefully you're now up to speed and can get to watching arguably the most popular feeder series for 2020. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, then let me know and subscribe for more videos like this, or if you like what I do, you can support me on Patreon. My name's Jacob, and as always until next time, goodbye.